Tene tatana ngadu shibatardo jerdo tenju untanam jindala leu nga yebe na ne leu tangbo te seni ji leu hela seni te number job kaso la kunyen korwin seni to nozo nyangen lende bin seni ni jo yebe na ne tanda kunyen korwin seni te hyusembare kunyen korwin seni te dudan rabo te la kandire se na korwa te jitanga 출바인 바다 출바데 빵나 달나 달도 루마인 바 데네 데 마달나 코르 둥할 코르와 둥할 제랑이 바제다 데 달나 달베 탑라잖아 네루곤데 제나 랑힌진 똥바 제어메 바인 바다 데타부게 엔세니 데 텐네 당하라서 그냥 코르베 주데 빵고 버텐 바래라 다 데제서 다 도공가 가서 해야 되라 tene tanda tarwa nyangelende ba nozo nyangelende be seni rela nozo nyangelende be seni de ta chitan kan khorwa ta nyangelende ba ni de chulbe ge chade ta chuni ge nelu de ngoma hi ne chulbe ge chade khorwa jetawa jindo ngohi ba de ta tanda tene nozo nyangelende ba imbe cherna toni ge korne sonrela Tony te sun capsula tatanda tombo yendrabo te sun dutela tomba ni nendordo nan seni ton non don te tanto iwata juba to te hipercha se tomba ni te hi yon capsula tomba ni te hi go tomba ni jin seni tene tatela tomba ni je nomdron tene nomdron te tan te iwa juba ta ti chetawa yinto drupa te ta nombai nga go ne sungyo re sungin sare.
So as I discussed this morning, there are 5 chapters to the treatise differentiating the middle from extremes, and we have been discussing the first of these, which is the chapter on characteristics. And so this chapter on characteristics has 2 parts. It has the discussion of the characteristics of samsara, the all-afflicted samsara, and it has the discussion of the utterly pure nirvana. So these are the 2 parts, and we have completed the discussion of the first, the all-afflicted samsara. But to just sort of summarize that, when we talk about samsara, what we mean is confusion. And this is confusion that we can remove. And if we don't remove the confusion, we will experience all the sufferings of samsara. Naturally, we'll experience the sufferings of samsara. And so we need to make efforts at the methods to remove the confusion. And so that is what we just... But the nature of how it is actually by nature, it is naturally empty. It's non-arising and empty by nature. And so because of that, we are able to eliminate all of the confusion of the all-afflicted samsara. And if we do that, then what we achieve is the utterly pure nirvana. So that's the second part, the utterly pure nirvana. So with samsara and nirvana, when there is confusion of not recognizing the Dharma nature, the nature of all phenomena, as it is, that is samsara. And then when we recognize the nature exactly as it is, that is the nirvana, the utterly pure. And so for that reason, the utterly pure are talked about from the perspective of emptiness. And so in terms of presenting emptiness, first there's sort of a basic teaching on emptiness, which is here in verse 13. So verse 13 reads, "Emptiness can be known in brief from its characteristics, synonyms, meanings, classifications, and from its proof." And so we do need to know what emptiness is. And so in order to know what emptiness is, we need to know its characteristics. We can know the synonyms for emptiness, the meanings of all these synonyms, and then the different classifications or types of emptiness, and then the proof. So how it is that we can establish emptiness. And so it is presented in terms of these 5 different things.
Tene ta tela ta tanda 동보 다디 넘방가이 ngai nane senyi de tene senyi de jitanga ondo sena ngaran su so na tomba ni sedu tsega ondo sena jian me panda bo jela gogre tene tomba ni jin senyi de jian me pa jela gogre be sena tende mare la nongtong songdun juba nongtong ni nyamdo yeba sartong ni nyamdo yeba ta ngaran su senyi ke nelu gong pe ka sa la jian me pe tomba ni ji gong ge yo be sena gong ge yo mare la ngote pe ka sa la jian me pe tomba ni ji la ngote nang ge yo mare lantong ki herap ji ta sartong songdun juba salwa tong tomba ni nyamdo yeba nda bo je gong nang ge yo re la teacher na ta tanda ngaran su toza de chuni ke se nelu de togu ke yore la chuni ke nelu de toni imba toni ke seni de kande jere se na ni ngu me don ngu me be ngu bo ton ben seni to sunde ni ngu bo me ba se du chezun yurdun chubata nan zambe samsung chuba nang ta che yul tang ran su karin chuge yore se na che yul je yaba teni tela chayin don ji tra la so ba je ge yore nang la hi ba je yaba zum zambe ki hi ba je yaba ta tela nong do mandra wa do nyem ba no ba mandra wa mong bo charni chuba de yung ge yore de yin na ya de ta bu zum sin jing bo de chu yo ma re che yul de ngo rang yin ji tong ba re nang gen zamba de ngo rang yin ji tong ba re teacher na zunzi ni ji ngo po me be tong ni ji re la tong ni de tni ji o me ba ji re se na ngo me be ngo po tong ben se ni to ngo me be ngo po te ya ya de me ba ji o me ba ma re ba de sa tong song dun ju ba de ni zunzi ni me be ge ngu po che yeba nda po che ta te ngu zu sa yeba sa tong song do nju pa te tong pa ni jin se ni re yeba mai me pa mai te ne ta jun sin te na tong pa ni sen ke te yeba che la ko ge yo re be se na yeba che la yo ko ge yo ma re me pa che la ko ge yo re be se na me pa che la yo ko ge yo ma yeba tong me pen ta len de pa che tong tene tang ngu po tong ngu mi ni te rebe se na te ya ma re ta te pa rebe se na ta te pa yo ma yin ba ta de me pen se ni to se na ta ngaran so sen ji ne lu gam ba ka sa la yo ngo tong ba sen ji ne lu de tong ba re de tong bu ngo de pen tong nam kha ta ba ma yin ba salwai ki cha da den ba ji la gong gu ge yo re la ta de ta bu tene yin be cher na 타티 빈세니 진짜 좀 말해라 틱도 좀 빈세니 진짜 많이 손에 땜바인
And so the first of these five is the characteristic. And so here, what it reads in terms of the characteristic, when we think about characteristics, we say the word emptiness, and we think that means just nothingness, blankness. But when we think about the characteristics of emptiness, is it really just blankness and nothingness? It isn't. It's the union of appearance and emptiness. It's appearance and emptiness together. The clarity and the emptiness come together. So like when we meditate on the nature of the mind, do we meditate on the nature of the mind being nothingness? We don't. For this reason, it's not just nothingness at all. It's together with that there is the perception. So there is the clarity and the emptiness together. And so we meditate upon these two together. That's what we need to realize. And so this is the nature of the emptiness. And so what we need to realize is the nature of all phenomena. And this nature is the emptiness. So the character of this emptiness is talked about in the first two lines of verse 14. The absence of dualism and the thing that is the absence is the characteristic of emptiness. So the absence of dualism, we have the two that we have. We have the dualism of the external perceived object and the internal perceiving mind. So normally we see an external object, we perceive an external object, we cling to it, or we like it, we want it, or we are afraid of it, and we are attached to it in some way. And then there's all this fear and the thoughts and the perceptions that arise and occur because of this. These are all confusion. And so they're all confusion because the perceiver and the perceived, neither the perceiver nor the perceived can be established. The external object cannot really be established as existing, nor can the internal perceiving mind be established as existing. So they're all emptiness. And so this is the absence of dualism. So this is just, there is neither of the two are there. Neither the perceiver nor the perceived actually exist. But it's not just blank nothingness. It's the thing that is the absence of this dualism. So there's the entity sort of that's the absence of this, the union of the clarity and emptiness. And so when we talk about the nature of emptiness, it's this union of clarity and emptiness is the characteristic of our emptiness. And so when we think about it this way, when we think about it, for that reason, is emptiness something? It's not. It's not really something. But is it just nothing at all, blankness? It's not that either. It transcends all extremes of being either something or nothing or existing or not existing. And so in this way, it's sort of a thing, but it's also nothing. And are these two the same or are they different? They really aren't the same. They really aren't different. And so there's the last line of this that probably should be translated differently. It should probably be translated as they have the characteristic of being neither, or it has the characteristic of being neither the same nor different. So it has the characteristic of being neither same nor the different. So this absence of emptiness and the lack of the two is not really the same. But you cannot really say it's that they're different either. There is the clarity that is there. They're empty, but that emptiness is not inanimate. There is the clarity that is present. And so that is what we need to meditate upon.
Tene ta te ji so ta tanda jidong kana ne tempan senyi ta nipa namdong song yo re la. Namdong de khande re se na ten ji namdong ma re meng namdong re la. Tene te meng da manda ta ba de la. Meng da manda khande ji ne shong re se na sanji chang den de jin do yin no do yo. Ta chu ni ge ne lu tong tong ba ni de la meng manda wa na yo. De yin do ke pa tong tu tong nan ji zong pe ten chu ge nang do yo meng manda wa. Tene main tenzo tenda yo yore la. Teacher na tanda haloka jonga pati tanda meng namdong tong tene tanda tsiksu cheba chudu pati ge meng namdong tenda te ten na yore la. Teacher na tomba ni ndordo na tomba ni de la ndordo na tene main mandawa kante yore se na kapka la tehi asong yore. Tene kapkala yung top tayang song yore. Kapkala sema meba yung song yore. Kapkala dan tamba yung song yore. Kapkala chuji yang song yore. Ta tin senji nongdong meng nongdong te ta waji yore. Ta te jesu halo ka chudu pa te ta tanda ya kondo domji tempe kapsala namdong tong te tan dan se ta ti meng namdong te ke tanda kande re se na tene tehi nye se du tene ngaran sol rama yepe ngupu ne lu ji re ma to tega ran re ma to yin ma yin ba je la ko ge yo re yin ma yin ngaran sol ta rimbo je ngaran sol ma yin ba je ngaran sol me ba je re be se na te ma re tega ran re tehi nye re tene ma yin ni ba te yung tapan ta sung ge yore la yung tapan ta se na khande sung re se na chenji lo ma yin ba yemin chenji lo ma yin dengo pho pe je yul tong pho pe chu ji je ye cher nong dong den de gorem yen sung de ta ni ba de yung tapan ta sing ge de yang tak ba je ge ne lu de ma chenji lo ma yin be dan ko ge yore tene chenyi tan meng nong dong sum ba de la sema me ba sung ge yore la Tenen sema meba sunde delan sema tengo pa tengo phope jeyul tengo sunde dela ta de ngaran su nzamba ye nyomben zamba to me nyomben zamba la so pa ganga tiyo ma do pa ngope chani tenen sema meba sunare teni mengi namdung yiba tela ten tamba sunga yore ten tamba sunga bi junsin gandhi de sena ta te ngaran sung korwin chundong tong chal ne papi sala yibi chongchu semba tamchi ki jeyur du chirba yinba ta ten tamba on chepara tong papa chuk du chirba je yinba chirna te taba tenba re teni chu ji yin ngaba te mengi namdung ngaba tela gandhi sunga yore sena chu ji yin sunga yore la chu ji yin sunga junsin te Papa Chuji, Joe, Papa Tati, Yending, Teni Sada, Satyo Topic, Yending, Long Adripic, Yending, Sonji, Sadripic, Sanji Chuji, Sonji Chuji Cotton, Monji Zopo Cotton, Triple Cotton Jiji, Gosuntuji, Yending Tamji, Jodi, Tachuni, the Hini, the Tona, Della Tini Juan in Bichar, Chuji, Yen. Ta teta menga nondronga tante korem yendo yen son.
And so then following that, as it mentions in the summary, or the overview at the top, it says the characteristics, synonyms, meaning, classifications, and so forth. So next we have the synonyms. And so the synonyms are the different names, not the different types of phenomena, but the different names that we can give for this one emptiness. And so the reason why there are so many different names for emptiness is that in the sutras, the Buddha used different names. Some for whether we call it the Dharma expanse or emptiness, use many different names for this. And then likewise, all of the great scholars and the great masters, meditation masters, also use many different names to describe emptiness. And all of these different names have their own particular meanings. And so for this reason, we have in the 15th stanza, we have the presentation of all the synonyms. And then in the 16th stanza, we have the presentation of the meanings of all of these different names. And so here, as it begins, it says, the synonyms of emptiness, in brief, are suchness, the right end, the absence of attributes, the ultimate, and the Dharma expanse. And so here, so the first of these names here is sometimes we call emptiness, suchness. Sometimes we call it the right end. Sometimes we call it the absence of attributes. Sometimes we call it the ultimate. Sometimes we call it the Dharma expanse. And so these are the different names that we use. And then the meanings of these, each of these has meanings, and respectively the meanings of the synonyms are first, the reason that we call it suchness is that this is something that is right with us. It's not something other. It's right. It's right what we have. It is not other from us. It's not something far away from us. Sometimes we wonder, is it something that isn't us? Is it something that is far away from us? It's not. It is not other than us, and so it is just the essence as it is. It is just that suchness as it is. It's just right there, just as it is. And then the second name is the right end, and the reason for calling it this, the right end, is that it is not wrong. There's nothing wrong about it, and so it's right, the right end. And then the third name is the absence of attributes. And so why is it that we call it the absence of attributes? It says their cessation. So it's the cessation of the thoughts of something being existing, or something being grasping at something as being existing, or grasping as it being nothing. So it's that none of these attributes that we grasp at can actually be established as anything. And so it's the cessation of those attributes, and therefore it's called the absence of attributes. So it's the cessation. And then the next word is the ultimate. Now here's a translation note. In English, we almost always say ultimate for this word. The actual meaning of the Tibetan and the Sanskrit is like the exalted object, or the exalted meaning. So the reason why it's called this exalted object, or the exalted meaning, is that it is the sphere of the nobles. And so the sphere of the nobles means that this is the object that the noble beings the bodhisattvas perceive when they are on the levels of the bodhisattva. So it's the sphere of the noble, so it's the exalted object. And so that's the fourth of the names, the ultimate or the exalted object. And then the fifth of the names is the Dharma expanse, or Dharma Dhatu in Sanskrit. And the reason it is called this is because it is the cause of all the noble qualities. And so the qualities of all the paths, the qualities of all the levels, the qualities of the Buddhas, the level of the Buddha, the qualities of the Buddha's Dharmakaya, the enjoyment body, the emanation body, all of the qualities of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha all come from the cause of this Dharma expanse, the Dharma nature, the Dharma expanse. And so that is why it is called the Dharma expanse. And so these are the names for each of these are the meanings of each of the synonyms, respectively.
Tate domji tempe kapso menge nongdong tong menge nongdong te ten ye pa te number ni tempe nong ne menge nongdong te six je pa jonga pe tempa tang tene menge nongdong ka ten te six je pa chudu pe tempa re la tate je so yiba te ta tensin yiba te tanda iware la iwate la desin ni iware desin ni yebenane tombo ni su iwa jeta tene jima ta tanda toni juduk tendo ta hiraje paru de sembenone toni judu song iware la toni juduk tendo temba te namba ni yebenane tombo ni su iwa te chuji yen dong tomba ni ta tanda ngaranzo ta kai hige chuji yen song yore ka la tomba ni song yore ka la ta ngaranzo song doji tipe ka so chaje chembo gamba tong zopa chembo gamba ka so la senjinelu asung yore la ta gomji nyom nyong ka so la te ta sung yore la te la yena namba ni yore so tombo de namba ni bote kene nyemo number ta tene tichi trima me chukham se dong namkan nam thapa yenda thaparande so ta te kandire se na tene ta tanda kene nyemo be chuni je da kene nyemo ba ta jeba jebe te hini dong chuji yen nyemo ba ta jeba ta ngaran su su ji ne ka la toni ta chuji yen de yore be se na yore yore de yina ya nyemo ba ta jeba ta nam do ta jeba ponza driba ta jeba yin be kap je ja yore la tang bo de tene yewa ni ba de te ta tanda long la zan ne remji tene pangza ten so pang ne chuji yen dong de yin ni dong sen ni ge ne lo de number top ne ka je yore la ti number ni yore ke ne nyemo ba to jeba kap je ta number top kap number ni yore la ta te la kari sungi yore se na tene trima kani nye mumba tong jeba te la tichi ki teki nye sungi yore la tene number top ne ka la trima mepe teki nye sungi yore la tene te pe yore te la chu tang ser tang namka tang rabo je re ta per na chu la yin na yung chu la ne kap ni yore nyuma tang jebe ne ka tong chu di chong ne tanda nyuma tsa ne me ba hindu tangbe ne ka te namba ni yore la chu yi ngo lan jirwa yo ma re te yin na ya ta ti tala to dulla so be chap ma chap ka kap je cheba la te ni jung yore la te chi pe tang bo de chol pe nin ba de ser la ya ba re la ser la ya yi gu ba tong ya yi ma gu ba ni ji ne ka ser rang ngo lan jirwa yo ma re te ya yi tmi gu ba tong ma gu be ne ka namba ni yore te yen do namka ta bu je yin na yo namka te la namka khorang ngo lan jirwa yo ma re te namka ten ji drip ne ka tong namka ten ta ta we ne ka ti namba ni yore ten ji on de se na ti ji ge te yin ni te yo number ta ba re la tene trima me ptegi ni te number ta pare chol rangin ji number ta pare se rangin ji number ta pare namka rangin ji number ta pare te yendo te yin do chu ji yen se ni ge ne lu te yo tene nguni ge on de se na ngu ge se ni la number ta pa yo are te hi chu chu to chu chu rang la deng ge yo are ma to rang la me pa che Solgi Yomare, Rangli Yore, Yore the in the Neka, Tribute to me, Gu Maguki Cheperji Yore, Sunday. Tati Chuni Tehini, Do Chuji and Tela, Yena number Nis Yote, Temper.
And so we had just the presentation of the synonyms and the presentation of the names. The synonyms were presented in verse 15, and the names were presented in verse 16. And then following that comes the fourth one mentioned in the overview, which is the classifications of emptiness. And so the classification of emptiness, there are two parts to this. There are two types of classifications. There are the classifications in two, and then there's the classification as the 16 emptinesses as taught in the sutras on Prajnaparamita. And so these are the two different types of classification. So when we classify or distinguish two types of emptiness, then whether we call it the Dharma expanse or whether we call it emptiness, sometimes in the secret mantra Vajrayana, in the meditations on Mahamudra and on Dzogchen, we also call it the nature of the mind when we are talking about how we experience it in meditation. But whatever we call it, we can talk about there being two different types of it, two different classifications of this. The all-afflicted and utterly pure are the stained and stainless. Just as the element of water, gold, and space are pure, it is held to be pure. And so there is the all-afflicted time, the afflicted point of when we have the suchness or the emptiness, the Dharma expanse. And so during this period of all affliction, during the period of their being, an ordinary sentient being, is there actually emptiness there? Emptiness is present. It's right there. But it's just temporarily hidden. It's hidden by all of our afflictions, all of the obscurations, all of our thoughts, and so forth. And so it's hidden by all of these. And so then the second type of emptiness is after we have made some efforts at the path. We have eliminated the things that need to be eliminated, and we've realized the Dharma nature as it is, and that is the utterly pure. And so there's the all-afflicted emptiness and the utterly pure emptiness. And so of these, the all-afflicted emptiness is the stained emptiness, and the utterly pure is the stainless emptiness. And so here there are some examples that are given: the water, gold, and space, or the sky. And so when we think about water, for example, water sometimes is filled with a lot of silt. And it can be filled with silt, or it can also be completely pure without any silt at all. But when the water is silty, then it's still just pure. The essence of the water is still pure. Just as it is pure during the time of being clear. And so the only difference is whether the silt and the dust and so forth and the particles are dissolved throughout the water, or whether they've settled to the bottom. So that's the first example. The second example is of gold. Gold is pure by its nature, but sometimes it is tarnished and sometimes it is not tarnished. And so when the outside of the gold is tarnished, the essence of the gold is still the same. It has not changed in any way. And so in this way, there are just two different phases, when it's tarnished and when it's not tarnished, but the essence of the gold does not change in any way. And then the last example is of space, or of the sky. And so when you have the sky, for example, sometimes it is hidden by clouds, and sometimes it's not hidden. All the clouds have gone away. And so in this way, there are two different phases, but really the essence of the sky is never different. And so in the same way, the meaning of this is that with emptiness, sometimes there are the stains, and sometimes that is stainless, but the nature of it is always the same. Just as the nature of water, gold, and the sky is always completely pure, in the same way, the Dharma expanse, the suchness, the nature of the mind is always in its essence. It is always the same. It is always emptiness. It's always right there for us to know. It's right there for us, ready for us to realize it. And so it's just a question of whether we haven't realized it or not. We just have to realize it. And whether it is stained stained by stained by confusion or not. And so in this way, there are these two different classifications of the Dharma expanse, the stained and the stainless.
Tene ta te jesu ta ti kaptana la yawa karin na wa resena tene tiji to timi te yini ni je yo toni de la sun korwa la ne pe kap je toni de da korwa ta dal ne tarba to pe kap je toni ni bo de la toni gung ni che par yo mare te yina ya ken ni nyem mo ke drip ma drip ke che par yo pa te tene yawa ni yo pa de la 다 대제에서 돈이 이와 주주도 야바래 돈이 주주송 돈이 주주도 가니송 아래서는 히라지 바로도 좀 돌아서 봐네 다쳐 돈바니 돈은 돈바니 돈 친홍 돈바니 라서 봐 돈이 주주송 요아래라 네 돈바니 대 주주도 이에 그게 준생인데 간디지레서는 돈바니 대 강강의보 탐지라 차바 답변은 알아서 검두 간데 공개 요아래서는 생진내 루세는 생지 땅도 주통지 돈이 뒤에 봐 공개 요아래대 이나야 디돈이 대체 난 바르섬지 의보 탐지라 차바인 바래라 드네 닭바다 마다 의보 탐지라 차바래라 대 차바르 히비게 제도 돈이 주루도 땡자 바래 드네 대양 돈이 주루도 땡바데 샬로가 세수제바 좁지바도 쪼고바도 니쇼바 니슈자직바 다 되게 세수제바 예고네 대나오 인사래라 다 대나는 세수제바 다 좁지바 되게 온드세나 되네 사와 자다 대루 네제 예예 동바네 대용 공기 제다름통 공실 대용 동바네 순두텔라 다 당보 사와 세두 다치당가 돈이게 온드세나 쳇동바네 논동바네 친홍동바네 쳔보동바네 동바니 동바네 라소바 요아래라 대나네 당보 사와 세두 다 롱제바 본다고지 난게 히바 make it number hiba na number hiba na number hiba la soba da nang senji chate sawa poam ta longche pa ponda buti la yore la te ya ta honsul go ondu sena yore de dan la tenzo trub yo mare la di chena non tomba ni sung yore ni pa de chetomba ni sung re la chetomba ni sung de la tene tatis lonchepa poi lonchepa ki yolde meki yodo jebe zo nawe yodo jebe da na yodo jebe tela sopa ta umbo droge kyo yodo jebe ki yolde chela ye panda bojere ti dembar trupa tomba ni mahimpa ji revesi na mare teacher na zawe ki yolde yon toni yimbe chena chetomba ni te ye lu se du ta lonchepa po nange hipa tembe ge ne che ngubola longje pege ne de kandiresena rang lu umbu nge chapege lu de la ngubo truba yore te dembar truba ji re sona te yo maimba tembege te yo tomba ni imba tembege chetla chinon tomba ni ta tomba toni sumba de chinon tomba ni tene ta te jeso ta te ta rang lu ji onde separe 다네 예예 동반이 데 치루진네 rādā rāwā tāng kāngchēm lā sōpa chēmbō sāyē lā sōpa tē chēmbō rē tā tēnsu tōmbā nī yīngi mā rē sō na tēn yō ngō rāng yīngi tōmbā yīmbā tēn bē kē chē tā chēmbō tōmbā nyē tēne tā tē tā bū kā tōmbā nyē tē tā chē tōmbā nī nōng tōmbā nī chē nōng tōmbā nī chēmbō tōmbā nī rē tē tē yōng gōng kē chē tār tōng tā tē tōmbā nī rē lā tōmbā nī tē tā yuā rē sō na tōmbā nī tē yōng tōmbā nī yīmbā tēn bā 제다랑 통데 동반이 송기요래 다티 나바티 다 두바티 콘서트 대용 돈이 동반이 준생 공개 처나 동반이 대용 대통바이 다티 문이 요래 선나 마인바 대용 동반이 대통바 동반이 대 다티 동반이 조 템바르 제스케바 제게 제스케바 샬로가 쫑아 조지바티게 동반이 조 템바르
And so here what's being taught is the difference between the stained emptiness and the unstained emptiness. So there's always emptiness, whether we're in the phase of being in samsara or when we have removed ourselves from samsara and are in nirvana. There's no difference in the emptiness at all. The only distinction is whether it is hidden by the all-afflictive obscurations or not. And so those are the two types of emptinesses. And then following that, there comes teachings on 16 different types of emptiness. And so these are the types of emptiness that are taught in the sutras on Prajnaparamita and are listed on your cheat sheet, by the way. So you might want to refer to that. There are these 16 different types of emptinesses. There's the outer emptiness, inner emptiness, outer and inner emptiness, the great emptiness, ultimate emptiness, the emptiness of emptiness. Oh, excuse me, it's missing on the cheat sheet. The emptiness of, it's just indented. Okay, it is there. Good. The emptiness of emptiness and so forth. And so these are all the different types of emptinesses that are taught. And so why are there so many different types of emptiness that are actually taught? Well, the reason is that emptiness actually permeates all phenomena. And so when we meditate, we usually meditate looking at the nature of our mind. We look at the essence of the mind, and through that we come to realize the emptiness of all phenomena. But really, this emptiness permeates all phenomena, whether they're outside or whether they're inside or whether they're somewhere in between. It permeates all phenomena, whether they are pure or whether they are impure. And so this is why the 16 different types of emptiness are taught. And these 16 different types of emptiness are taught in the verses 18, 19, 20, and 21. So in these 4 different stanzas. And so it begins in the verse 18. And this reads, "The consumer consumed their body, the emptiness of the ground of the realm, as well as that which sees it as such, and the reason that it is emptiness too." And so here, when we say the consumer, this is the... when we think about it in terms of emptiness, there are the outer emptiness and the inner emptiness, and the outer and inner emptiness, the greater emptiness, the emptiness of emptiness, and so forth. And so here it says the consumer. And so the consumer means the person that eats, or the person that uses something, the person that experiences something. So this here means our internal mind. So this is the eye consciousness that sees form, the ear consciousness that hears sound, the nose consciousness that smells scents, and so forth. And so it's talking primarily about the aspect of mind. And this is also emptiness. This is what consumes, or what experiences the objects. And so here this is the also emptiness. So this is the first, is the inner emptiness. And then in terms of how things appear, they seem to be there, but actually, in actuality, they cannot be established. And so that is the inner emptiness. Now the second is the outer emptiness. And so this is the objects that we experience. The forms that we see with the eye, the forms that we see with the eye, the sounds we hear with the ear, the scents we smell with our nose, and so forth. And so here they're called the consumed. They're the things that we experience as the external objects. And so we think of them as being something. We think, oh, they really exist. They truly are there. They can't be emptiness. But actually, they are emptiness. And so here, the consumed here means the outer emptiness, the emptiness of the objects that we perceived. And then it says their body. And so their body, this means like we have the outer objects, we have the inner senses, and the place where these all happen is our bodies. And so the body is like, it's permeated by the 5 different senses. And so we think of this as being real. And this is true, and the body's really there. But actually, it's not. And so here, by saying their body, this means the emptiness of the outer and the inner emptiness, and so the emptiness of the body. And so in this teaching, sort of emptiness. And so this is the emptiness of the outer and the inner emptiness. And then following that, it says the emptiness of the ground of that realm. And so we think of the ground of that realm, the ground of the world, as being something that's big. It's there. It's a very great world out there. And we think there really is a world there. But is it so? It isn't really so. It is emptiness as well. And so this is the great emptiness, the emptiness of the world. And then the next line is, as well as that which sees it as such. So we have all these things that we think of as being emptiness. But we think, well, that emptiness, it must be something itself. But actually, it's not. That emptiness itself is also emptiness. And so this is the fifth type of emptiness, the emptiness of emptiness. And then, so for that reason, there's the reason that it is emptiness too. And so that emptiness, that also ultimately, we think that ultimately that emptiness exists, the emptiness of emptiness, but it isn't. And so in ultimate truth, the ultimate truth is also emptiness. And so that is the ultimate emptiness, the sixth emptiness. And so here in this 18th stanza, we have the first 6 of the 16 types of emptiness taught.
Tene ta tige ta sike pa tam jogi pa tige toni tho tene ta toni damba ta jepa ne jogi pa pardo sesu jepa jogu pa tige temparela geni sedu duji je gewa ta nduma se je gewa ta tela yang aranso zamba ta ngunzin chimbo ta hemba chimbo se na kwan chinzi ge jorndo yimbe chena Duji gewa teo, duji tombanye. Duma se gewa teo, duma se tombanye. Tene toni kingo la tembatan. Tene ta te jiso, ta tanda geni topar chawa tong. Topar chawa ke cherto talin de pa tombanye, songa insarela. Talin deba tombanye de talin deba tombanye de topar chawa de tati gyawani topar chawa ki cherto bepa sepa de ta charwa imbe cherna talin deba tombanye todo senjin pen to cher se todo senjin la pen to par chawa cherto ta toni goba de senjin la pen to par chawa cherto toma ta toni chodu go on de na toma don tamame ba tombanye sonarela teni teacher na toma don tamame ba tombanye imbe cherna teni tu todo senjin la senjin la pen par chawa cherto teni khorwa toma me ba tamame ba la pardo tenne pata khorwa tomar mezi cher gewa mezi chawe cher tni rang gewa te mezi ba yoni yondo dupar chawe cher to torwa me pa tombani ta tela yo choyi me jewe cher to torwa me pa tombani te ta tanda toni chuchi pa insar.
And so that was the 18th stanza, which teaches the first of the 6 of the 16 emptinesses, and then in the 19th stanza it continues teaching this. And so this reads, to achieve the 2 virtues, to always help sentient beings, to not give up on samsara, and to do inexhaustible virtue. So the 2 virtues are the compound virtue and the non-compound virtue, or the conditioned and the unconditioned virtue in some translations. So the compound and the non-compound virtue. And so if we have a lot of attachment to these, then these actually become a cause to bind us in samsara. And so the emptiness of the compound virtue is the compound emptiness, or the emptiness of the compounded phenomena. The emptiness of the non-compounded virtue is the emptiness of the non-compound. And so these are the 7th and 8th of the emptinesses. And then in order to attain this, to achieve the 2 virtues, it says, to achieve that is the transcendent emptiness. And so this is the we want to be able to achieve that, and to achieve it, we need to be diligent about our practice. And so that diligence has to be free of any sort of extreme. And so it's that's the way it is transcendent emptiness. And so that is the ninth of the emptiness, the ninth of the emptinesses. And then the next line is to always help sentient beings. And so this is the emptiness of the emptiness without beginning or end. And so in order to help the sentient beings, we always need to help them at any time. So without any beginning or end, we always have to help sentient beings. The sentient beings have always been in samsara, and so we must not give up on samsara. And so this is the emptiness without beginning or end. And then to do inexhaustible virtue is the emptiness without rejecting. And so without rejecting means that we are not having any attachment, or that we are engaging in practice of emptiness without any attachment or clinging to it in any way. And so that is the 11th emptiness.
Tene ta te jeso sex jeba nishipa tige ta tanda Tony Juni Patan, Josan Patan, Juki Pate, Temba Israela. Tati Nani, Tampo, Tatoni, Juni Pate, Tanda, Rachon, number Tazi Cher, Zeta, Tehi Bere, Sanji Re. Teon, number Tapati, Morangi Tombani in Becherna, Rankin Tombani. That only you do on the ranking tombani sungiore. Taken the rank and seni tombani sungiorella. Rank and seni tombani te that Tony Chusan Patrella. Rank and seni tombani te tang aranso Rewanda Bota, the name pe Tepanda Bota, Tinguns in Hukimbondoa in Bicherna. Saints on Basunjutani, don't pay Zombo Topercha, Certo, Tela Chalking him, but the Chalking him big Yul Madupa in Bicherna, the rank and seni tombani. Taken the Sanji Chutam Tijon, Sonji Chuna, Chutam Tijon, number Tapa in Bicherna, or ranking Tomba in Bicherna. Tene Chutamji Tombani, Te, Tate Tavo, Takondo, Tombo, non Tombani, Chetombani, Nizonte, Tandana Patola, Chutamji Tombani, Patola, Tony Jogi Orella, Te, Sonju Semba Duberse Pare, Sonju Sembe Componta Percipic, Teta Nelu de Tona, Sonju Sembe Componta Percipare.
Now the next stanza, the 20th stanza, teaches the 12th, 13th, and 14th of the emptinesses. And so the 12th of the emptinesses is the natural emptiness. And so it says to purify the family. And so this is the family or the potential of the Buddha. It's the family of the Bodhisattva, the family of the Buddha. And that family or that potential that we all have is itself naturally empty, and so this is the natural emptiness. Following that comes the emptiness of specific characteristics. It's on in a different order on the cheat sheet, but here is the order it is here. It's the emptiness of specific characteristics, and these are to attain the marks and signs. And so the marks of the Buddha, the signs of the Buddha, are something that often we feel a lot of hope for them. We have a lot of faith in them, and so then we get attached to them as being something real. And these are like the 32 major marks of the Buddha, the 80 signs. And so in order that we are not attached to that object, we then realize that object that we would be attached to also is not established as anything. And so this is the absence or the emptiness of specific characteristics. The next one is in the line to purify the qualities of a Buddha. And so this is the emptiness of all phenomena, the 14th of the types of emptiness. And so all phenomena are utterly pure, all phenomena are empty by nature. And so this is the emptiness of all phenomena. But here it particularly refers to the qualities of a Buddha. The qualities of the Buddha are all pure, they are all empty by essence. And so this is the emptiness of all phenomena. And so, in this way, from the inner emptiness and the outer emptiness and so forth, up to this point, we have had 14 different emptinesses. And so, these are emptinesses that the bodhisattvas practice.
Tene ta teji so ta tanda toni jonga pa toni judupa ni de sonrela toni jonga pa toni judupa de tanda sisi pa ni chaji pa de sundu gonza tonne chu nam je ngopo mender tomba ni tengu me pe ngui pa tene tele toni yen sundu tela ta tela gonza ga da me pa ta 대견도 공사가 다음에 받자 많이 봐. 추탐지 다음에 받대. 추탐지 오랑 인지 동바 임바대. 대답 응보 맨더 동바니 공사가 다 대응 응보 마도 받던 추지 다 대응 응보 마도 봐 임바대. 동바니 대 니요라. 동바니 니보대 다 돈이 정아 받대. 공사가 다음에 동바니 되라. 공사가 다음에 받다 동바니 대 응보 대응메 응의에 봐. 대응보 메베 응보에 봐. tene ngupo madupa rong yinjinji madupa rong yinjinji imba te charna ta tela ngupo mepe ngo tomba nye so te yendo tanda chutam chi tongji do mepa tela tene tele tongni yin ngupo te ngu mepa singente ta tanda gongsa ka do mepa tong ngu yepa ngupo mepe ngupo yepa tene tele tomba ni yin teati ngupo mepa rete yina yo te mepa rebe sena mare te rangin ji chupati ngoni tomba ni teati ngupo me ndar tomba ni sengi te gongsa ka do mepa tong te ngu mepe ngu yepa tene tele tongni yin sengi te chuji do mepa te temba yin sara ngoni tanda ngupo me ndar tomba ni sengi te ngupo mepe tomba ni tene tengu mepe ngu yeba tene tele toni yin sengete ngoni tomba nye tene
Kondo chite kaso ngupo mepe dero tomba ni ngupo mepe dero tomba ni de ganza ke dame ba
gonza ka dame ba je
tengu mepe
ngu yeba tene tele toni yin sengete sikoni de chuji dame
tene tambo de la kaso ane ngupo mepe
tombo gonza ka dame ba tele ngupo mepe tomba nye
ngupo mepe
tene chudupa te chuji dame ba te ngoni tomba nye
all also. And so then the 15th and the 16th emptinesses are taught in the 21st verse. And the 21st verse reads, the absence of things that are individuals or phenomena is emptiness here. The thing that is their absence exists, and there is another emptiness. And so here, the individuals are the phenomena. Individuals don't have any self, but it's not just that individuals lack a self, it's also that all phenomena also lack a self. All phenomena are naturally emptiness. And so there is the selflessness of the individual, the selflessness of all phenomena. And so both of these are taught here. Both of these are the absence of things that are emptiness here. And in this translation, it's a little bit different order of words than in the Tibetan. So it's like the first line, the absence of things here is referring to the absence of the individual self. It's referring to it's referring to the selflessness of the individual. And then the lines that read, the thing that is their absence exists, and there is another emptiness, refers to the emptiness of phenomena, or the lack of a self for phenomena. And so the first of these, the one in the line, the absence of things that are here, is the emptiness of is the emptiness of no things. And then the second is the thing that is their absence exists, and there is another emptiness, refers to the emptiness that is the emptiness without any essence.
tene ta teji so ta tanda nyam tanda chutang ji dong ni ba tang Tony Teya, Tatanda, Jayong Maybe Tony Mahimba, Kunzup Tomdo, Nomatamji, Tanda, Yewang Tang, Tanda, Tetabu Tupartempa Tela, Kalti Nyemon Te Major, Lujin Tomji Trovaranjur. Kalti namda te majur mbepa drebu mepa njor nyemo mai memo mai te na thato mala mai sumde tela nyemo ba te do tanda kunzo chong de yore tene tha te ta bo tanda yongda mai be kunzo to pa te yore Yonda Mayin Bekon the Topati, Mepaji Risona, Tinitamji, Lucin Sentin Tonji, Droranjore. La Tini Yonda Mayin Bekon the Topati, you are ready in a Yonda Mayin Bekon the Topati, no de Tony. Tinite, Tony in Becherna, number Tapare. Tachitan Kuzo Sondo, Yonda Mayin Parede, Tanton Benelugo on the Sena, Moran Hinjitomba in Becherna, the number Taparella, number Tapa in Becherna, Kalti Namda Te Major, Bepa Dev Mepanjotini, number Tapati Mena, Naransu Kawa Kasi Chichi, Tarbaton Tomchi Champion Componto Beget, Bepa Kandi Chichiana, Dev Toya Mepa Yungrella, teacherna, more ranking number Tapare, Kunzo Sondo, Niamon Batenzu, Niamon Baton, Horwig. Seni tenzo yonsu zoba yore teacher na ta tambe nelugo onda chena nyemon ba yon main la nyemon ba main ba yon main te tapa yon main la mara ba yon main ba te ta chitang tanda kunyan khorwe gi chu no so nyang ne de bi chu tang ji gen seni de te ta ba ji yore so.
And so all phenomena are emptiness. But in being emptiness, emptiness does not mean that they're just nothingness. In relative terms, they are there. The relative appearances do occur. And so this is the imagined and the dependent nature. And so in this way, as it says in verse 22, if there were not the afflicted, all beings could be liberated. If there were not the utterly pure, efforts would be fruitless. Not afflicted and not undiluted it is not pure and not impure. And so here there are the afflictions there are the afflictions and so forth, which actually in relative terms are there. They are present in relative terms. There is the misconception, the incorrect conception that we have. If there were not such misconception, then all sentient beings would be liberated. But the nature of that misconception is its essence is emptiness. And so its nature is that it's actually utterly pure. So if there were not the utterly pure, efforts would be fruitless. So if the nature of all of those confused appearances were not actually pure in ultimate terms, actually ultimately pure by essence, then no matter how much effort we did, there would be no chance of attaining any purity. There would be no chance of getting of attaining any result. No matter how much work we put into it, we could not attain any ultimate result. And so the essence is ultimately pure. In relative terms, the afflictions and so forth do occur. And so in this way, there are all the phenomena of samsara, all of the afflictions actually do occur. But in the ultimate terms, there are not any afflictions. That afflictions are in the ultimate terms, there is no. It is not really diluted. It is not really pure or impure. And so, in this way, these are the way that all afflicted phenomena of samsara and all of the utterly pure phenomena of nirvana actually are.
Tate leu tangpo te tuparela. Leu tangpo te kari tengi yore sena. Tata hikinyang korwen seni te hyuparela. Tata nazo nyangin de ben seni yena yung chutam je la chaparela. tene tige tene nozo nyangin de pati top tugi yore besina top tugi yore de ta bu tomba ni ton chuni de yin de ngaransola yore la tene chuni de yin ton tene tanda nozo nyangin de pa tomba ni de ngaransola yona yo mugubaji rebesena mugubayo mare naranson korwale tarne tarwadon tomjin jembe kompong dewa to rangin je deni linji tubaji gubayin becherna toni don chuni gnelu de nozo nyangin de be kompong de top gubayin rela top tobayin limba ta deta seni de deni seni gleu de tembarela tene ta de jesu leu niba de tene dripeleu Dripeleu de Tembari, the Junsi Kankicha to Tembari Sena, Tene, Tanda Naransola, Chuni de Hini de Yore, Soho Doji Tipe on the Siena, Soja Chimbo Sanji Nelu de Naransola, Yopa, Tene, Yoparella, Yeni, Yopare de Yena de Naranso to your Marella, the Togi your Mare, Korala, Negi Yore, Youngin and de Compon Togi your Marella, the Motop Junsin de Candidate Resina, Nekap Drivayabalatine, Motopare. La, Tejandong Aranso Gomji Jamnaya, the Sinonton Rabota, the Niamon Badabota, and the Mambo, Jegi Yorella, Techi Tiene, Tanda, Tingens and Dribi Yorella, Dribati, candidate into Dribati, Moshi Gugi Yorella, the Junsin teacher not in a driplew, the tempore.
So then comes the colophon for the first chapter, which reads the first chapter, the chapter on characteristics from the treatise differentiating the middle and extremes. And so this is the first chapter, and what it teaches is it teaches the characteristic of all the all-afflicted samsaric phenomena, as well as the utterly pure phenomena of nirvana. So are these utterly pure phenomena of nirvana something that we can obtain? They are. The emptiness, the Dharma nature, something that's present within ourselves. The emptiness, the suchness is something that it's there. But just because it's there, does that mean that we don't have to do anything, that we don't have to attain it? It doesn't. We do still need to free ourselves from samsara. We need to attain the ultimate happiness of freedom and omniscience. We need to attain the spontaneous benefit for ourselves and others. And so we need to realize what that emptiness is, so the pure phenomena are. So we can realize it, and we need to realize it. And so this is what this first chapter, the chapter on characteristics, is teaching. Then the second chapter is the chapter on obscurations. Now, the reason why there is a chapter on obscurations is that we currently have this nature, the Dharma nature, that's present within us. In the secret mantra Vajrayana, we call it in Mahamudra the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is something that we have. It's something that's been with us from beginningless time. But we haven't realized it, and we haven't really actualized it. And so because of that, we remain within samsara, and we have not realized nirvana. And the reason that we have not realized nirvana is that the nature is temporarily obscured. And when we say that it's temporarily obscured, that means that like when we do meditation, we have thoughts. We have various things that happen in our mind, various thoughts and afflictions that occur within our mind. And these obscure our meditation. And so we need to be able to recognize what those obscurations are. And so that is why the second chapter is teaching us about obscurations.
Tene ta telaya dripa mandrava yorela dripa mandrava yopati kapkapla tanda tene dripa takamdar dripa number 2 tembarel chaptan nitse lapa tan nyamdon lendon pon ne niji dripa temba yensi se komba som go de tembar tene te chap dripa sena takapkala ngaransola tipa chimbu galonla Shukpala pardo chepe ke driba yorela te driba chembore te parchi chembo chege yor rankin senchi mambu ke dan driba la parchi chepa imbechana te la chap driba sege yor Yan taken the Naran Tipa Chungu Galona Hupalayo, Tatanti part of Dribayuarella, Tidraba de la Carisigaresina, Nitsi Driba Segarella, Neka, Tangaran Kipu, Tarbeg component to be or Mato, Senki Mambola, the name Dorantine Jachimbo, part of Jegi or Marilla, teacher Nitsi Driba Segio. Tajitanga ya dribate la flop dribaton, yumper driba ni orella, flop driba sinking the Yamumba Hugh Chimbo, Namto Hugh Chimbo, driba Hugh Chimbo Yapatella, flop dribato, yumper dribate some meba, sapo driba sapo yapatan. Tene lembe dribaton, pon driba, singing Corva ton to lene, Corva lanjubaton. Tenen Corva Ponte Galo, Tatanda, Tipa Member Tabaji, Narani Kipu, he did Tandonin, and Corva Ponte Galo Javate, Lambert Dribaton, Pont Dribato, Yaba, Tate, Rumba Yentola, Chapel Dribaton, Nisivi Driba, Niki Driba, Te Yendo, Hopper Dribaton, Yamber Driba, Ni, Lambaton Pont Dribate, Niki Dribartemba Yen, Tachitanga, Dribamandawatinde Yore. La Tati Jiso Atene Tati Drabati Ngo the Nyemumban Nyemumbatem Barella Nyemumbate Rakwa some the Tendi Nyemun Seni non go Nyemumbatilan Seni number go you are so inside.
So there are different types of afflictions, and so or different of obscurations. Excuse me. There are different types of obscurations, and so first it presents 6 different types of obscurations that are taught in the first 3 lines: pervasive, partial, great, equal, grasping, and abandoning are taught as obscurations of the 2. So the first of these is the the pervasive obscuration. So pervasive here means big obscurations. These are the obscurations that prevent us from entering the path of the Mahayana. And so these are big obscurations, big obstacles for us, because they prevent us from bringing benefit to ourselves and all other sentient beings. So they're big obscurations, so they're called pervasive obscurations. Then there are also obscurations that prevent us from entering the paths of the foundation vehicle, the Hinayana. And so what are these called? These are called the partial. So they're like the partial obscurations because they're obscurations for ourselves only. They only obscure ourselves from attaining liberation. They don't prevent other sentient beings from gaining anything. So these are the first pair. They're the pair of pervasive and partial. Then there are the great obscurations and the equal obscurations. And so the great obscurations, this talks about the strength of the afflictions. When you have really strong afflictions, they're really great afflictions. And so these are the great obscurations. And then when the afflictions are not that strong, they're sort of slight, they're more in balance or equal with it, that's what we call the equal obscurations, the more slight obscurations. And then following that, there are the obscurations of grasping and abandoning. And so grasping is when we want to take up everything samsara, and we cast ourselves, we make ourselves enter into samsara. And then, then there are also the obscurations, which are a particular obscuration of the for the paths of the foundation vehicle of wanting to give up, of abandoning. This is thinking that we have to completely get rid of and abandon samsara. So these are the 6 different types of obscurations. And here in this translation it says as obscurations of the true. You could also interpret it as being pairs of obscurations, which you could say the pervasive and partial is one pair, another pair is the great and equal, and the grasping and abandoning is another pair. And so in this way there are these different types of obscurations that we can have. And so these are all basically in characteristics. They're all, in terms of their characteristics, they're afflictions. And so they're the 9 with the characteristics of the afflictions. And so there are of the of the obscurations, there are 9 different ones that have the characteristics of being afflictions.
Tene tatige tantor tempe capsula, Niemon Banseni number good, Tempatanta, Jeberhi capsula, kundu jornam driba yin kundu jorwa driba ta te tabu driba song yuware la driba te la driba number go song yuware driba number go te ta tanda kapndar tsawe nongdo hyal salburan song yuwa mare la ten driba nongdo song na driba go te kandere se na mari pa tang jai desha tang ni control tong som ngajal tong ye tesong tong nga tene tawa tang zhou chungzin tong dain tene chado tong ji senna tong go te la kundu juru go se nyamon pa se ni namba go sungwa te kundu juru driba nam sung te la kundu juru driba te namba go yuwa re te ta te tinghen zan tong tene salong ka yen ten jewa la dribgi yuwa re te dribgi ke tsul te kandi re se na tangpo ndesha ke dribgi yuwa Desha ka kandi si dhibki yuwaari siya na khorwe ke le ne lu longche tenzo la chahin jie ne tene khorwa le chandik lo siya la joxie tong ngenjung rabo jie ma juba jowa tong na tong nyong tong songde jowa te la joxie yapo jie ngenjung yapo jie jie gu ke yuwaari la tangpi chu yong tapa jie dhibar siya pa la te jie wala desha ka dhibki yuwaari tene te yendo tingen sen gomba la sopa la tonghyom tene sem debo sempa jipu ngone tingen sen gongu ge yore la te la partu jebi nyemomba ji yungu yore ti nyemomba te kare yungu yore sen nyemomba control ge tonghyom do nepa la debu yore tonghyom la deba control ge tonghyom la deba ta tene ta te yendo te kona nin tongwa tong ta ten tambe nelu ge te kona nin tongwa la dribgi yore la ten tambe te kona nin tongwa ti ta tanda nguni chuni ge nelu de to na to gu ge yore la ten tongwa la par du je be driba te kandire se na ngajal ge dribgi yore ngajal ti ge tene ten tambe te kona ni chonde ge lo da tongde ge lo da te la tu song sen de lo me je wa te kona nin tongwa la dribgi yore te kona nin tongwa la te kona nin tongwa la tin da da tawa te kona nin tongwa tong da da tawa jitsu la tawa pongwa la dribgi yore no re te kona nin tongwa la dribgi yore ta jitsu la tawa to te ye la driba te ta marik pare maripati ge dodata tini dodata ne dodata ge yeti nelu ti chetawa yindo mato pala maripe dugi yore sone tati ge nyemomba ye kondu jorwa gogno nyemomba ye dribe ge tsolti tanda temba insar.
And so of all these there are these 9 different obscurations that are mentioned in this overview, and then in the detailed explanation that follows it, they're described as being the fetters, the 9 fetters of existence. And so here these 9 fetters are not listed in the root, but they are listed in the commentary and on your cheat sheet. And so these 9 different fetters are: first, there is ignorance. Second is desire. Third is anger. Fourth is pride. Fifth is doubt. Sixth is views. Seventh is overesteeming. That is overesteeming your path and overesteeming your discipline. And the 8th is jealousy. The 9th is stinginess. So these are the 9 different fetters that are explained. And so they have the characteristics of being afflictions. And so of these, what these 9 different fetters prevent us from doing is they prevent us from doing meditation and samadhi. They prevent us from developing all the qualities of the paths and levels. And so how is it that they prevent us from developing these qualities? Well, the first is that they prevent us from developing, the first one that prevents us from developing anything is desire. And what desire prevents us from developing is the full knowledge or understanding of weariness. And so here, weariness means weariness with samsara. So here we are in samsara, we are dwelling in samsara, and desire prevents us from developing any weariness with samsara or any sense of renunciation. Without a sense of weariness, without the renunciation, we will not be able to free ourselves. And so the desire is a fetter that obscures us in this way. And then the next is equanimity, full knowledge of equanimity. And so this is our meditation. It's a state of equanimity. And when we practice this, what prevents us from practicing it is the second of these, the affliction of anger. This obscures our equanimity. And so that is the second of the fetters that is taught here. And then the third is what obscures us from seeing suchness. And what obscures us from seeing suchness and seeing the nature of the Dharma nature as it is pride. It is pride that prevents us from doing that. Because when we get pride, we start thinking, I don't need to do this. I don't need to worry about seeing this. I don't need to realize this. I'm proud. I can do this myself. I don't need to study. I don't need to contemplate. And so there's this pride that prevents us from realizing, seeing suchness. And then, so that is the third. And then the fourth that is ignorance. And ignorance presents us from seeing personality view and its basis. So personality view is it's a synonym for saying the view of the self, the view that there's a self that exists. And so this is ignorance prevents us from seeing what that is. It prevents us from seeing what the basis of what we think of as the self is. And so ignorance prevents us from seeing that. And so of these 9 different fetters, 4 of them are specifically mentioned here.
Tene ta tegendo tanda tsitsjepa sumbage tanda tela tene ngopa topa la pardu jepa ngopa topa la kangi pardu jepa resena tawa jita tan tarta ton lobar tawa la sopa ton jiji ngopa topa la pardu jepa re tegendo chunzen sena tawa ngembalan chodun zambaton surim ngembalan chodun zambayena lamla pardu jep lam zambo la hubala pardu jep dribayo re tegendo tesamiyena kenju ge yendin hibala dribayo re 대견도 되네 초도 이어나 되네 녀바도 κορ들라 다 님이 히발라 바르도 제바 용리요래 대견도 센나 이어나 요지 뉴마 용스 히발라 바르도 제바 용기요래 소마델라 다 디게 단다 타발라 드바 디 히바레 다 디지소 되네 gewa chola gesu chola drabata tene ta yenda la draba khahi sang yo la tene ta te na ne tambo gela sopa chola yin ta gela sopa driziti yan yenda je yo re so in sa.
Now the third verse says, cessation, the path, jewels, gain, respect, and having few needs. And so what prevents us from attaining cessation is the view. And this is the view, the personality view, the view of the self, the extreme view, and also wrong views. They prevent us from attaining cessation. What prevents us from practicing the path is overesteeming. So it's overesteeming bad views or overesteeming discipline and austerities. And they prevent us from entering a proper path. And then doubt prevents us from realizing the qualities of the jewels. And so that is the next obscuration. Doubt prevents us from realizing the qualities of the jewels. And then jealousy prevents us from developing respect. And then stinginess prevents us from having few needs, for developing a sense of contentment with what we have. And so these are all obscurations that prevent us from attaining liberation. And so following these, there come the obscurations of the ten of virtue and so forth. And so as it reads, others obscure the 10 of virtue and so forth. So there are 10 qualities that start with virtue and include a few others. And there are different obscurations that obscure these 10.
다 대답을 들어봤대 건도 저러 고 ndaboje yana ngwe sai na pe pento chembo tang aran so susujiwo tamal pa indu kapka la nyemo ba kondu jorwa tenzo yungi yorela tenzo yuni ta tel nyembo ndabo ta tenhi pa mate na te teni nyemo ba de hyucher ro yorela hyucher sona teni aran so tingen zenji nyomne ta tombi junyon salen bala bardu je yore te kondu jorwa gote ngwe sai tini tela nyembo tenhi pa tena te drabati ki madriban ro in bicherna ta tela be cerdo tu da namba jondola tene konto jorwa gobo tela tenhi ton pa ten go ba cheta ti na ne mixal to tene tingen zen gamba kapla so bala ta ti nam to rakwa tin zu che ong yo arela nam to rakwa tin zu che na ta ti ki chen chimbo che ge yo arela tene ti ngusim be ki cerdo tempare ta ti ji su gewa chola gesu chola dribatela je parhi yo arela gewa su chola dribar se batela dribzi sumchu tamba dribza cho ta ti jar yo arete ta teringe chunti te som jona teni tanda che driwa na ko kap na buji phugudo te ti si pesate mangro teni te si sarsa mare sambanda bondola teni terin driwa puju ko kap na buji ma som gondo yogi la terin ki chudi te som yogi.
Now these 9 fetters are something that if we recognize them, it is really very helpful for us. And the reason is that we are ordinary individuals, and because we are ordinary individuals, they happen. They occur. And when they occur, we need to be able to apply the antidote. We need to be able to apply our mindfulness and awareness. If we don't apply the antidote and apply mindfulness and awareness, then they're just going to get bigger and bigger. And then they will be a problem for our meditation and for our Dharma practice. And so we need to be able to recognize them. And when we recognize them, then we need to apply the antidote, apply our mindfulness and awareness. We need to do this at all times, but in particular, we need to do this when we are doing our meditation. Because in our meditation, the afflictions and coarse thoughts of this type do occur. And when they occur, they can become problems and faults in our meditation. And so we do need to know how to recognize these 9 different fetters. And so following this, there comes the detailed explanations of the obscurations of the 10 virtues and so forth. So there are 30 different obscurations that obscure these 10 different virtues and so forth. But that is enough for today. Now, actually, I'd wanted to give some time for questions, but this text is awfully long, and we haven't a lot of time, and I'm afraid of not being able to finish it. And so I hope you don't object to this, and I please beg your pardon, but I didn't leave enough time for questions. I hope there's time maybe tomorrow. And so that is enough for this afternoon.
Se